Gaylord Briar's life was intertwined with crows from the start. It began with one in the yard when he was a boy. His older brother aimed a BB gun at it, intent on shooting. Gaylord, driven by pity, intervened and took a BB into his right hand, a mark of that day still embedded in his flesh. The pellet ached when the mist rolled in, a constant reminder of his youthful defiance. He awoke one summer afternoon to the soothing clicks of sprinklers and the warmth of sunlight pouring through his open window. In his dreams, he saw the eyes of crows. They became a part of him, an unspoken bond. Over time, he learned to call them to his windowsill, offering scraps to the trio that often visited. Then, as always, the three would leave. At the seafood restaurant where he worked, the crows waited for him, watching from the trash bins and rooftops. Once, he found one trapped under a garbage lid, the others calling frantically for help. Gaylord lifted the lid, freeing the bird, and they all scattered into the sky. Days later, he found gifts atop his car. 2 pennies, a car wash token, bits of jacket stuffing, a yellow wire, and a green pebble. The crows perched nearby, watching him intently, gauging his reaction. He accepted their offering, feeling the weight of their silent acknowledgement. Years passed, and the crows never left his life. He saw their intelligence in the park with his nephews as a single crow drove off 2 falcons. Another time, he witnessed one harassing a bald eagle, outmaneuvering it with relentless cunning. He observed their tactics at the restaurant, where they worked together to keep seagulls away, because the seagulls would spread trash, prompting the workers to keep the trash cans shut. The crows knew to keep things tidy. Gaylord found himself talking to them, sharing words they couldn't understand, but seemed to appreciate. He wanted to belong to their world, to learn their stories. Yet, it was a love he could not claim, an understanding just beyond reach. Their shadows followed him everywhere. He heard their distant calls, like a song on the wind, their language older and wiser than his own. They guided him to strange places, a bush of peculiar berries that made him sick, allowing him to hear the music of the world, the violins in the grass, the orchestra of crickets, and the morning song of a crow mother. Despite the connection, Gaylord lived the life demanded of him. He dug and earned, taking jobs that paid more but offered less beauty. The crows watched with what felt like laughter, mocking his masquerade. Relationships faltered. He left a woman after only a few nights, returning to the solace of his feathered companions. One evening, they led him to the court, where thousands of crows gathered in a parking lot under a shaft of white light. 4 crows stood in cross formation, and the court of birds sat silently in witness. 2 crows fought, a ritual unlike the savage battles he'd seen before. The duel had rules, an unspoken respect between the combatants. When one fell, the others dispersed. Only the wounded crow and its mother remained. Gaylord stepped forward, lifting the injured bird and taking it home. He named the crow Corey and cared for him diligently. Corey's wings, clipped during the trial, left him unable to fly well. They walked together, Gaylord carrying him on his shoulder. Over time, they developed a shared language, a hybrid of crow calls and human words. Corey spoke of places they explored, weaving stories Gaylord could only partially grasp. Their wanderings led them to trails untouched by man, places of ancient magic and hidden springs. One day, Corey warned him,
"Do not look, my lord."
But Gaylord looked. In the branches he saw her. Large brown eyes, dark lips, freckled cheeks lit by dappled sunlight. She moved like a whisper through the leaves, silent and ethereal. Corey urged him to leave, and this time Gaylord listened, sensing danger. Later he saw her again, disguised as a woman, walking with a man. Her laughter betrayed her true nature. At the edge of her glade, she revealed herself, feeding on the man's love, her taproot piercing his heart. Gaylord realized she was not a creature of malice, but one of necessity. Humanity had destroyed her forests, leaving her to survive on what little was left. Her existence was a reflection of his own, a being out of place in a world that no longer remembered its roots. Corey warned him again. "This is too far. We have seen." The woman confronted Gaylord, her sage smile both an honor and a threat. "Stay away," she warned him gently. "It is not fair that you seek me." Gaylord agreed and watched her vanish into the trees, the mist stinging his aching hand. "She will not forget," Corey said solemnly. "There must be a death." When they encountered a man armed with a knife and a camera near her glade, Gaylord knew what had to be done. He followed the man, using Corey to track him. When the moment came, Gaylord struck, knocking the man unconscious. Far from her home, Gaylord ended the man's life, severing his spine with the knife. Corey perched on the corpse.
"You are dead now,"
he said, pecking out the man's eye. Gaylord wiped his fingerprints from the knife and carried Corey away. Some paths are best left unexplored, Gaylord murmured, his heart heavy with the knowledge he had gained. Corey ruffled his feathers.
"She will remember,"
he said, and together they disappeared into the shade of the ancient trails. Gaylord Briar had taught his crow, Corey, to speak. Now, with its mended wing, the bird perched comfortably on his shoulder. They had left the dead body behind on the trail, but the act weighed heavily on Gaylord's soul. He felt sick, not from the effort, but from the cold realization of what he'd done. Murder. And now, an even greater responsibility loomed. Finding his way back to a semblance of his old life. Which way do we turn? Gaylord asked the crow.
"How should I know, my lord?"
Corey replied, turning his beady eyes back toward the trail they had traveled. "I want to turn myself in," Gaylord said, nausea churning his stomach as the adrenaline began to wear off. He feared man's justice, but craved escape from the guilt that gripped him. He thought he had acted out of righteousness, but doubts gnawed at him. Had Curl, the voice in his head, compelled him to kill? No, he decided. This was his burden alone to bear. As Gaylord often said, "These have given me life, and for death, life is but the knowledge." The words offered no comfort. Pulling the man's wallet from his pocket, he used his sleeve to open it, memorized the ID, and pocketed the cash. Then he discarded the empty wallet onto the path, leaving the body as a grim warning to any who might stumble upon it. He found refuge in a boarded-up house marked by the sheriff as a former meth lab. Nobody dared to go there, except Gaylord. He reasoned that even murderers deserved shelter, though the thought was a bitter consolation. From this vantage point, he watched the victim's family as the police delivered the tragic news. Would he have loved them again, in time? Gaylord whispered.
"Would Amityville love them again, in time?"
Corey echoed, clicking reproachfully.
"In time, all things come to be. Death will always happen."
Gaylord pondered the words. Are you saying he might have killed them? He wondered if this might justify what he'd done.
You might have killed him, Corey retorted. I asked you, will he die? And you did.
Their grim path had shifted once again. Gaylord ventured into town for food, only to draw the attention of the local police.
I'm Detective Winters.
A lean man with sharp eyes introduced himself, lighting a cigarette with a nearly spent Zippo.
You're new around here, right? Do a lot of walking?
Yes, Gaylord replied nervously. Is there something I can help you with?
You live in that place?
Winters gestured toward the condemned meth lab. Gaylord nodded.
You want to be helpful? Is that it?
Winters asked, his tone unreadable. I'd like to be. Gaylord lied, dread rising in his chest.
We found a guy murdered down by the rust pond,
Winters said, blowing smoke into the air.
We can't figure out what he was doing there, or how he ended up in that state. Maybe you can help.
The rust pond? Gaylord repeated, startled. Winters studied him for an uncomfortable moment before shrugging.
Never mind then. Let's see what you think.
Gaylord reluctantly agreed. He followed Winters to a patrol car, where Corey perched on his lap. The crow muttered uneasily.
This man is strange. He wants nothing from you and asks you for something.
Corey observed. Gaylord fed Corey a piece of bologna from his groceries. Where are we going? He asked Winters.
To the rust pond,
The detective replied.
Also, I like you. Let's stay close for now.
I'd rather not.
I insist.
Winters said flatly. At the pond, police tape marked the perimeter. A steep, rotting path led to the water, where the victim's body lay covered. White ash formed strange patterns among the muck and rotted leaves.
He was casting a spell,
Gaylord said, staring at the ashen circle.
Do you know how he died?
Winters asked. Gaylord stayed silent. Nearby, a second officer examined the scene. Corey hopped nervously, muttering to Gaylord.
His soul is trapped. He committed a great evil. The magic was his attempt to silence it, but instead he woke it up. It's still here, hungering for revenge.
Gaylord's blood turned cold. A raspy, unnatural breath emerged from the shadows.
What is that? Hands up! Show me your hands!
The second officer shouted at something unseen. A skeletal figure lunged from the darkness, choking the officer with bony fingers. The man collapsed lifelessly as the creature turned its eyeless sockets toward Gaylord.
Agitate the circle of ash, Corey hissed.
Gaylord scrambled forward, kicking at the pattern. Detective Winters fired his weapon, shattering the creature's skull and severing an arm. The undead horror crumbled into a heap, lifeless once more. Back at the car, Gaylord settled into the back seat with Corey perched on his shoulder, the crow picking at the last remnants of the bologna from the grocery bag. Detective Winters leaned against the open driver's side door, lighting another cigarette. He exhaled thoughtfully, his sharp eyes scanning the dark horizon, before turning back to Gaylord.
You know,
Winters began.
after all that, I feel like I need a moment to regroup. Maybe grab a bite.
Gaylord raised an eyebrow. You're thinking McDonald's?
Yeah,
Winters replied.
I figured we could sit down, have some fries, and talk through whatever the hell that was back there.
Gaylord looked down at Corey, who clicked approvingly. Fries sound nice. Winters smirked faintly.
Good. We'll figure this out. One step at a time. Yeah?
Gaylord nodded, his grip tightening on the bag in his lap. One step at a time, indeed. And fries didn't sound bad at all. I sat in the parking lot of McDonald's, feeding French fries to my talking crow. We were in the back of Detective Winters' car. He was having the large coffee that costs only $1. He had told me he liked it better than Starbucks, as he took it black.
Sergeant Ventura was a good cop.
Detective Winters was talking about the policeman that had gotten killed at the crime scene. Did he have a family? I asked.
He was divorced.
Detective Winters sounded like he could cry for the dead man.
We were his family.
I ate my cheeseburger in silence. Corey hopped onto the fries and scattered them to the floor. He looked up at me without an apology for his behavior before he went to go eat some of them. We were taken to a hotel where we became roommates with Detective Winters. The maid knocked on the door as I was taking off my boots. He answered it with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth that he had lit with hotel matches.
What is it?
He asked her. I listened, genuinely curious. No animals. She pushed past him slightly and spotted Corey. Presumably, she would go get the hotel manager.
It's okay. He's with me. I'm a detective. I'm solving murders.
He told her, and showed her his badge with a well-rehearsed gesture. She gave him a very admonishing look, and left without saying more. I wondered if our sleep would be interrupted. I was very tired and went right to bed. In the morning, the same maid was back, prompting me to wonder if she had worked all night. She glared at us as we left, and she went in to clean. Detective Winters took me to the station and made me sit around with him all day while he did paperwork. He had interviews with people and more paperwork. His job suddenly seemed very boring to me. I already longed to go outside and discover the world out there. I was his hostage because he knew I knew that I was his suspect in a murder.
I want you investigating this. Looks like it might be the hitchhiker killer. If you can get some cooperation from you-know-who, maybe we can call the FBI on this one.
The boss of Detective Winters walked over to his desk and gave him a thin file on a crime scene secured earlier. Let's go. Detective Winters got up, and I followed. Who was he talking about? I asked.
Possible serial killer. I know a guy who knows a lot more than he's telling us. First, we need to go see this crime scene. Forensics is already there, so you will have to wait outside.
Detective Winters was talking fast. He was excited about this for some reason. You know this serial killer?
Yes. If it is the same one, then we've had several killings already. I will need to go see our friend. Then we call the FBI.
Detective Winters explained. Is that how it's done? I asked.
It is how we are going to do this. You wouldn't understand.
He started his car and we left. You like it when people say you wouldn't understand to you? I asked after a while.
Not really. Sorry. I just don't like feeling like I'm explaining myself to someone.
Detective Winters gave me some kind of crude apology for the way he had spoken to me. Well, I don't really like listening to you anyway, I offered. After that, we just drove in silence. After we arrived at the crime scene, Corey went to the floor of the back seat to feed on the drying fries left there. Detective Winters asked someone he was passing for their cigarette, took it, and smoked it as he walked away. We were left there, alone in his car. I was tempted to just get out and walk away. I felt it would be dishonorable. Therefore, I stayed, out of a sense that I was doing the right thing.
What a mess.
Detective Winters came back after a while. He fished a half-smoked butt out of his ashtray and lit it with the car's lighter. Then he rolled down the window to exhale smoke as we drove away. We arrived at a small trailer where a column of smoke arose from out back. Detective Winters said,
"Come with me."
The man was just throwing the last papers and files out of an empty banker's box and tossed it aside where several others sat empty.
Daniel Barrow.
Detective Winters spoke so he would turn around. The man gestured at the destructive act he had committed and shrugged and smiled.
What can I say?
Daniel Barrow asked.
I don't work for you. I am a private eye. You know, an investigator for hire.
I could arrest you for destruction of evidence.
Detective Winters told the private eye.
Then do so. I am merely destroying my own pictures and notes. Personal property.
Daniel insisted. Then we left him there, smoke trailing away with bits of white ash in his hair.
What a dick.
Detective Winters used a bad pun. I chuckled and replied, he seemed crazy. Something dawned, and Detective Winters held his hand up at me for a second while he thought. Then he lowered it and brightly added, Del Friar Asylum. Detective Winters decided. Where crazy people are? I tried to follow his jump to a conclusion. I had no idea what he was talking about.
Where Dr. Evans was killed. That is how I met our friend for the first time. He was caught snooping around that crime scene too.
Detective Winters recalled. I said nothing as we drove to Del Friar and gained access to the ancient and fearsome-looking seaside castle. It was still medieval compared to other mental hospitals. I'd only seen it in pictures, but now the place creeped me out. What are we doing here? I asked. If Dr. Evans was killed by the same person Daniel Barrow would have told you about, then you already know who it is.
You're right.
He stared up at the terrifying structure.
Jessie Darling. She was a patient here. We have a copy of her file. You are right. There's something more I wanted to see again.
I'd rather wait here, I told him. He nodded and left us in the parking lot. When he came back, he looked disappointed. We drove back to the hotel in silence. The next day, he met with the FBI and told them what he knew about a serial killer named Jessie Darling. Then he found me and told me.
Her name is Scarlett. She was friends with Daniel Barrow. He visited her often.
Now that you have completed that path, why not try another? I asked him.
Scarlett is who we should be looking for.
Detective Winters agreed. We will never find Jessie Darling. Then let's start at the beginning, I advised him. And we drove back to the crime scene we were at before. His decision was to drive along the highway from there, heading away from Del Friar. Detective Winters said,
I think she has killed 6 men, and she tried to kill Daniel Barrow. He survived.
As it grew dark, a light rain began to fall. The sound of the windshield wipers kept going. My hand began to ache. Up ahead stood someone in a red hoodie, hitchhiking with their left thumb out.
Must go, now.
Corey cawed.
Sounds anxious,
Detective Winters noted. He's saying we must leave, I translated. He gets jittery.
He got a name?
Corey. I
took my crow to my lap and gently held him while the back passenger door opened. I looked over at the dark shape in the red hoodie. Lightning flashed behind her before she got in to sit with me in the back. I could feel the damp, cold air coming off of her hoodie as she seated herself. She was young, although her face was kinda mean looking. As she spoke, she gestured with her left hand, her right never appearing. She said, "I was walking and this rain started. I just need a lift into town." And she tried a fake little laugh and smile.
We can give you a lift,
Detective Winters offered. We started back onto the highway, and she reached up with her left hand and got her seatbelt on. "The hand is silver, and it can cut like a knife. Maker of dead men from living ones. She actually likes doing it. You could learn from her." Corey told me about our guest. "Your bird talks," she smiled. This smile looked real, but still predatory.
if you call that talking.
Detective Winters chuckled with a masculine disregard. I don't know," I stammered. I was frozen in fear. This was surely our hook-handed hitchhiker. She was definitely Scarlet. I could imagine her weapon striking away half my neck in one instant swipe out of nowhere. She'd kill the detective next. Only she was wearing a seatbelt, so our corpses would get ejected into the darkness. She'd stay belted to her seat. "I can understand him," she smiled coyly. You can?" I was choking. Sweat beaded my forehead, and terror gripped my heart. "He says I am pretty and sweet, and that you already like me," she sighed. He said that. I breathed mechanically. We pulled into a gas station. Scarlet stayed seated, smiling endlessly at me, her eyes shiny like glass. I had to pee, yet couldn't move. I was afraid that if I tried to get out, she would slaughter me. Detective Winters took his time filling gas, making a long phone call, buying cigarettes and smoking about half the pack. I was in agony. It was either pee myself and possibly trigger her killing me, or get out and die trying. I really have to pee. Is it okay if I go pee?" I squeaked. "Sure. Come right back." She was still smiling like a golden devil at me. I crept away from her and shut the door. Corey was on my shoulder as we obtained the key, attached to a real goat's leg, hoof and all. I went into the bathroom and peed. As we came out, with the goat leg in one hand, zipping up with the other, the parking lot lit up. Police cars swarmed from all around, surrounding Detective Winters' car. I watched while armored SWAT had to drag Scarlet from the vehicle. Scarlet managed to slash them anyway, drawing blood from 3 of them. Her hidden prosthetic arm was indeed like a sharp pair of hooks. She whipped out a knife and got one of them in the groin. Blood spurted from his wound, and he staggered and fell over. Finally, they had her restrained and arrested. I went into the gas station to return the goat's leg bathroom key. Detective Winters came into the gas station behind me and selected a lighter to buy. It was with a bunch of lighters with tattoo art on them. His had a little Red Riding Hood, looking scared and standing in front of a wolf's eyes.
You're still alive,
he told me, and flicked his lighter's flame in front of me before he went back out to the car. Death will always happen, Corey agreed with him. I just sighed and tossed the goat's leg onto the counter.